everybody, welcome to the Trans Files. As you may know, Sukuru is actually not going to join us tonight. He is actually doing a service. He is going to a protest in response to Lindsey Graham's garbage proposal in the Senate to ban abortions at 15 weeks. It's garbage and, solidarity to Sukuru. But tonight, this is going to be a very, very hard topic. I know these lives have not really been discussed. And, I just want to go ahead and just put this massive trigger warning here. You're not going to see any violent pictures, but there are going to be violence in the conversations of how they lost their lives. So I'm just going to ask people right now, if we could just take a moment of silence for the trans lives that have been lost. I'm going to go ahead and put something on here just a little bit of music, just so that way we can keep you entertained at least for a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for a little bit, and then we will go ahead and jump into the discussion. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've been working on this pretty much all day since 8 o'clock this morning. I didn't get done with it till about 2 or 3 because I had to take breaks. I started getting triggered. So if you kind of see some smoking going around, don't mind it. It's just our way of coping with it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, blow this up. So far, 2022, the trans lives that have been lost. The most recent one that we just heard about, ACD Morrison. She was 30 years old. She's Two-Spirit. She was in Rapid City, South Dakota. She died on August 21st of 2022. And obviously, like I said on my TikTok this morning, the reason why we're just now hearing about it, because the cops misgendered her. And that's why it wasn't really known. She was found dead in her mobile home. They did identify a suspect, but they don't know if the charges are going to be pressed. About her personality, she used humor to handle her pain, and she was known to have an altruistic personality, meaning that she would give her shirt off her back if it meant clothing somebody else. The next one I've talked about too, her name is Regina Mae Allen. She was shot to death on August 29th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She was killed 3 weeks before her 36th birthday. Her killer is Clayton Hubbard. He is a 31-year-old white man. So essentially what happened, Clayton picked her up from the gas station. And as she got out of the car, he shot her outside the apartment building. When the cops got there, she was alive for a brief moment. She was also friends with Toy Davis and Brazil Johnson, who were also killed this year in 2022. And they are going to be on this list, and I will talk to them. So speaking of that, Toy Davis, she was 34 years old. She died in Milwaukee. She was found dead in her local neighborhood. Although right now, circumstances around her death are not clear. She was a certified nursing assistant. She loved to cook. She had mentioned that transitioning saved her life. And I just kind of want to pause there for a minute. This is what it's like for trans people. When we're not able to transition, we go through a mental fucking hell. A hell. And when we're not in a safe, affirming space, we start thinking about taking our own lives. That's why having support is so critical. And this is what we feel when we're able to transition and live as our authentic selves. She professed her faith, and she was convinced at that point she was made in God's image. I know most of you are not religious. Actually, I don't even want to use that term religious. Spiritual. Oh, let me go back. Dede Rex. She was 33 years old. She was originally from Ohio. She was shot in Detroit on August 27th. There's not a lot of information that's been known about her life. They don't know what the motivation was. And right now in Michigan, they're going through a battle with trans rights. And as you see, most of these deaths that have been going on in 2022, have been in Michigan. It's getting fucking ridiculous, people. This one actually particularly broke my heart. Jasper Aaron Lynch. He was 26 years old. He was killed by the Virginia police on July 7th. Media reports did not note his gender identity. He experienced a mental health crisis. So what essentially happened, the parents wanted to do kind of like a wellness check on him. The first times the cops showed up and they brought a mental health provider. But then they came back a second time without the mental health provider. So essentially what happened, they put up the defense where it was like, okay, well, he came and attacked us. You really want to believe that, though? So they tased him, and then they shot him 4 times. He is the third person, trans person, that cops have killed. This is not okay. This is why mental health needs to be more involved when you're dealing with a crisis. And I'm sorry, and I do not care if people give me shit for this, but cops do not belong anywhere near anyone that is experiencing a mental health crisis. He was a writer. He even inspired professors to keep teaching when they were at their lowest. That portion actually stuck out to me. Maddie Hoffman. She was 47 years old. She died on May 19th in Malvern, Pennsylvania. She was born in Korea. She was immigrated to the U.S. She had 6 other siblings. She was also killed by the police when they were doing a wellness check. Less than a minute when they entered the residence, the cops shot her. It took her life. So what happened to the cops? Well, according to the Chester ADA, they decided to say that the shooting was justified. Now, let me ask you both this since we're over here. Do you think that is justifiable for somebody to immediately just walk in the door and just shoot somebody with no reason?
I don't really think there's a lot for justified.
It's not
it does not justify anything. Like in mental health, like when you have mental health, like you need people there to help you through it. You don't need people walking through the damn door shooting you. That's not what you need.
The concept of justified police shootings typically revolves around that your life as a police officer was imminently in danger.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the violence in this country has been real.
Yeah.
But just to walk up in there because somebody's having a crisis and shooting him, I'm sorry, that's not okay, and that's not justice for me.
No.
It's not.
Candy Red, aka Camilla Marie Swan. She was 29 years old. She was killed on July 24th in Kansas City, Missouri. So they received a report of a cutting. When they arrived there, she was dead on scene. And again, police misgendered her. As you see throughout this presentation, you're going to see this as a common theme. Police misgendering people. Media misgendering people. She was a Black T-Girls Model of the Year of 2014 of the Transgender Erotic Awards, and she loved astrology. She really cared about the lives in society. And all the common themes that you're also going to see with all these lives, they impacted so many people with the short time that they were here on this planet. Hayden Davis, she was 28 years old. She was shot and killed on July 25th in Detroit. They found her wrapped in a blanket. She was shot multiple times. Witnesses claimed that they saw her, that she had jumped out of a vehicle and she was being chased. Her interests included fashion, skincare, and makeup. That is just a horrible way to go. What are your thoughts on this, Justin?
It is. It kills me.
And
it
just for
kills me a
record,
lot.
it does. I just cannot.
It's not
and
okay.
I wanted to highlight this concept. Cops are not trained for mental health beyond a few basics. That is why they shouldn't be anywhere near anyone that is experiencing a mental health crisis. Not at all.
No, they need to have someone there that is trained to do so. And where I live, the cops are no help when it comes to mental health, period, at all. They just take you into custody. That's literally all they do because you're a danger to yourself and others. So they fucking put you in custody. That's literally the law here. And you know what? It's bullshit that cops can do this and get away with it. And that it's justified according to people. It's bullshit. It does not justify anything.
No.
It justifies that they're a killer and that they're a murderer. But it does not justify law.
And they always get away with it too. They always get away with it.
Cops always get away with everything. Even if it's not murder, they get away with it.
And just for the record, we did lose Jess for a little bit. Hopefully she'll be back. But with Hayden, this one touched me too. It's like, what kind of a human being does that shit though? Wrapping somebody in a blanket
and then
out
shooting
in the street. Hey, Jess, we brought you back.
Yay. Sorry.
It's okay. I understand. Maricela Castillo. She was 39 years old. She was shot and killed in Houston, Texas. She had been in the car with her killer. At this time, this killer has not been caught. And the thing that actually, I kind of resonate with her on this. She faced discrimination at her job, and she was doing construction. And this is the thing. People don't talk about this shit when they're talking about trans lives. This is something that most trans people deal with. They deal with discrimination just for who they are. And this is also kind of with the gender norms too. Like people would think construction, oh, well, it's a man's job. No, it's not. It's for everybody. She was just shy of her 40th birthday. She had a positive attitude on life, despite the hate that she received. And that is something that I try to carry. I know this world is fucked up right now, but I gotta be a little optimistic. That's why I always say, use that hate that you get and use it as a motivator to keep fighting. We are human fucking beings. We are not a species. Period. This is just sad, but anyway. Sherry Bush. She was 48 years old. She lived in Los Angeles. And if most of you know, Los Angeles is like full of homeless people. I mean, it's like that in the state of California, period. She was homeless. Homeless. And I'm emphasizing that because a lot of trans people are fucking homeless. And a lot of them don't get fucking support. She was shot on the day after the 4th of July. She was targeted because of her gender identity. The killer in this case has been caught, but nobody knows much about her personal life. And that's the thing that really bothers me with people who are homeless. The fact that we don't know anything about this person. It's like they're just like trash. It bothers me. I wanted to get your guys' opinion before I go any further because I don't want to like take over the mic too much.
It bothers me too that we don't know much about her at all. She was homeless, and as a young person who has been out for many years, I experienced homeless when I was trans too, and it's hard. I had no support. I had to do everything on my own. Everything around me right now is what I've done by myself, and it breaks my heart to see people go through anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm glad that the killer has been caught, but at the same time, it's just so heartbreaking. Because no one deserves to live a life where they're on the streets and don't have any support. No one deserves that.
No. And that's the thing. This is the thing that bothers me about this country too. There's many people who are on the streets right now, and they're just seen as second rate, and that it just bothers me in general. But Keisha Chanel Dede, she was 26 years old. She was shot in Augusta, Georgia. She was killed on July 20th. Her killer was Jakari Allen. He has been arrested and charged. They resided in South Carolina, but they could not charge them with a hate crime because South Carolina doesn't have a hate crime law protection. And here's another common theme that you're going to see. Most of these trans lives that have been lost, they have had to raise money for their own fucking funerals. Like, they got no help whatsoever. She considered herself an advocate. That just breaks my heart. In general, that we can't even fucking afford to be buried. Martisha Richmond. She was 30 years old. She was pronounced dead on July 12th. She was shot in Chicago, Illinois. Police answered to a domestic violence call and was found with multiple stab wounds. There are no suspects. Witnesses were described as being uncooperative, and she was loved by family and friends. Okay, human life is human life, first of all. If you see something, fucking say something. Imagine if it was you and you were dead. You would want somebody to speak up for you. Make sure that you get that justice. If you know anything about what happened to Martisha, please speak up. Let's get her justice. They all deserve justice. Kitty Monroe. She was killed on June 29th in Cordova, Tennessee. How they described her, she was a mother to 4 dogs, China, Million, Tokyo, and London. And by the way, I think those are very, very cute names for dogs.
Those are cute names.
Her killer was Samuel Ward Jr. Basically what happened, she had told him to leave. And how it was described, she pulled a gun on him. They fought, they struggled. He ended up pulling out his own gun, and he shot her several times. And that's according to his statement. Some reason I tend to not believe the words he's saying. Because he's trying to protect himself. Go ahead.
I don't believe that either. People saying just what they want, what those people want to hear to get out of trouble.
I want to bring up this point, though.
And I'll walk away to say or to know what that other person's going to do.
We're echoing a little bit. Anyways,
yeah.
Hold up. Let me remove for a minute. Many areas in the inner cities are huge on the stitches get stitches rule. And yeah, that is true. I was taught that too.
Yeah.
Hold up.
That's very big where I am.
But if it's a life, for me, I don't mind snitching. Because they deserve to get justice, whether you're trans, gay, straight. They deserve to have justice. So in that case, I don't mind breaking that rule. But Shania Giselle Marie, she was 27 years old that was killed in Gulfport, Mississippi on June 21st. She was shot in a apartment building called Emerald Pines. This is the fucked up part right here. There were children present. And her sister was shot and she was in critical condition. Police got the guy, but overall, in her overall life, she was a personal care assistant and a certified nursing assistant. She was helped saving lives, making lives comfortable for those who couldn't take care of themselves. Why would somebody want to take a very compassionate person like this? Well, I know. Bigots. They don't care about that shit. Brazil Johnson, 28 years old, again shot in Milwaukee on June 15th. The killer has not been caught for her. They are still looking for the killer. And this is the thing I really admire. When she was a teenager, she's been an activist since her adolescence. She was a community health promoter for Diverse and Resilient. And you know, this statement really actually broke me a little bit, because this is what that center said. They stated they failed to protect her. That's kind of how I feel right now. I don't feel protected. And we have to protect ourselves at this point. I want to gather both of your perspectives about this, because I know we've been talking about there's so much bullshit that's going on in our communities right now that more people are getting hurt. You said it perfectly, Jess. Trans is the new gay of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to hear both of your perspectives, whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first, just in case my computer decides to be possessed again. Why would you feel protected? Why would any of us feel protected when you look at the things that are happening, and it's right there in black and white of why these things occur? And there are a ton of whys, but you get this little snippet of, well, it was probably this, or they're homeless, or whatever they want to lay on top of it. It kind of reminds me of, even with women, that, if you are a prostitute and you're murdered, nobody cares, right? So it's been lumped into this group of people that we don't really care what happened. And we would rather that you're dead and buried than we put another probably white male or a police officer in prison and ruin their lives because you weren't important anyway. And it doesn't matter what important things trans people do to be more important than the Brock Turners of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a disconnect in people's brains, partly because of propaganda and partly because people don't really want to know.
And this is the thing. I actually was telling a friend of mine this. So this is the thing that kind of disappoints me with trans activists. What they're doing is great, spreading awareness about what's going on with their legal stuff. But I noticed a common thing. They don't talk about the actual trans lives that have been lost. They have a voice too.
Yeah.
Even though they're not with us, they have a voice.
They have a really big voice.
Yes.
They do.
What are your thoughts about this, Justin?
Why would any of us feel safe? Because we don't feel safe at all. None of us do. No one helps us. No one supports us. When, it's just a lot. Down where I live, no one protects me. I've always had to protect myself. And frankly, that is not what it should be like for us trans people. We should be able to feel safe in our own homes, at our place of work, anywhere. We should be able to feel physically and mentally safe. But because of all this shit that we get from fucking bigots, it's just, we don't feel safe. And we have a right to not feel safe. There's people in the world that choose to do this. And I hope that those people go onto another fucking planet and never come back.
I always say they could go on an island.
Yeah,
Well,
that's even better because they can't travel back here, and we'll make sure that we don't give them anything so they can't build a boat or shit and come back.
hey, listen, the British did that with Newfoundland. Newfoundland was a prison. Australia was a prison. Look how well that worked out. No.
True. Very true. So the next one I want to talk about, her name is Sasha Mason. She was 45 years old. She was shot in Zebulon, North Carolina on May 13th. She was shot multiple times. They did catch the killers, but the police are unsure if they will consider it a hate crime. This is the thing that was actually kind of cool for me. At her funeral, she actually requested that no one was allowed to wear black and white colors, only bright and fun colors. If I ever die, which I will, I know, I want that.
I would want that too.
I would want people to celebrate my life. I don't want people to be sad. I mean, of course, I'm going to expect people to be sad, and that's okay.
I demand it. I demand the sadness, but you must do it in brightly colored clothing.
Yes, that's perfect. Yes.
Hey, no, can we just bring up that Kate has posted here? Because someone really speaks to me, and they said the saddest thing is if and when you defend yourself, you will be the one who ends up in trouble. I have personally experienced that. I have experienced hate through schools. I have literally, I can't even go to the bus plaza without being jumped. You know what? I defend myself at school after I get slammed into a locker because I'm trans, and I get arrested for it. Like, Kate, you are so right. This is total bullshit. No one should be getting in trouble for defending themselves. No one. No one should.
But like the thing is too, it's even on social media too. We get punished on social media when we're just simply defending ourselves.
We get punished everywhere. It's like we're just being punished everywhere.
Well, the BIPOC community has been trying to warn us of this for a plethora of years, centuries, that if you are a minority that is hated or disregarded, your self-defense is not self-defense and will not be used for you to go, but I was defending myself. You know, and it's even been an argument in the feminist community that women who defend themselves after years of abuse, when they finally snap, they are incarcerated longer than most male perpetrators, even though the likelihood of them reoffending is none. And the parole boards will say they're never going to reoffend, but just in case. So part of that too is not even just about trans people. It's about looking at minorities and self-defense. The only people who get off with things are straight het white men, right? So when we look at that, has to change overall. And when it comes to trans issues, we have to fight the white supremacy first in order to encompass it all.
I agree with that.
Right? Because to go, we're all minorities. And if we fight the white supremacy on why can't minorities defend themselves without that whole clause being thrown out the window? And why is that occurring? Nobody wants to address it because unfortunately the people who are protected by it will no longer be protected by it.
Yep.
Yes, or the filthy rich. Ace, you're correct.
Yes. So the next one,
definitely.
Shanalika Ella Dwar Hemingway. She was 30 years old. She lived in Albany, New York. She actually received the Spelman Academic Achievement Award. The killer has not been caught. They did a wellness check and she was already dead. But I highlighted this quote: "May your memory be a revolution." What does that mean for both of you when you hear that? May your memory be a revolution.
Oh, I have a good one for this, but I'll let Justin go first.
Meaning that the work that we do will be carried on in future. Even after we pass, we will still be impacting lives here. To me, it means that I will be here still giving a huge impact and huge support, even though I'm not. That's what it means to me.
What about you, Jess?
Okay, as someone very much faced with their demise on a regular basis, including coming up in the next couple of weeks, I not only want people to continue on legacies, I go down, I'm like, with my last breath, I will say things. But I want it to be not an angry uprising, but an uprising. Why is this occurring? And within my life, I'm like, choose something, because if I was to pass away in 2 weeks, you can choose whatever avenue makes you feel that you want to be mad about, whether it's minorities, or whether it's the misogyny in the medical community, or whatever it is. Choose one and get mad about it and demand that things change, because I would still be here if it had have been changed 4 years ago. Stop sitting on your laurels. Look at the people around you, the humanity. People get upset when I talk about my death all the time. I'm like, y'all, if you don't realize the humanity around it, you will never fight for these things to change. And everybody needs to band together. It needs to be a freaking riot. Pride was never a celebration. It was a riot. We are becoming complacent. And your anger cannot be violence. Your anger has to be directed and focused, and shout and yell and make changes. Pull people together. Use those faces and go, but my friend, though. And use it to continue fighting so that no one else has to fight anymore. And if nobody gets mad about it, it will never change.
Hey, fucking man. I was actually going to say something similar to that, actually. Like, I just believe it's just, we need to carry on. We need to keep using our voice. We can't be silent. That's why I always say, don't be afraid to engage in uncomfortable conversations. And that's what's missing in what's going on in the LGBTQIA+. Nobody's talking about the uncomfortable conversations. They're focusing on, well, this and this and this and this. It's nitpick. Cut it out.
Because they're not afraid for their life if they just nitpick about things.
Right.
To have the intense conversations. And in fairness, when we look at almost everyone that you have put up so far, they are BIPOC.
Yes.
And for a lot of that requires white activists. And they seem to want to do activism in the places where there should be none, or it's not required.
We just
it's pushing people to go use your mouth and fight and yell, and even quietly in the quiet dinner parties of your caucasity, of your freaking martini with the double like olive with the shaken not stirred. Bitches, tell someone what is going on. Tell people with money what is going on.
Yes.
Stop fighting in echo chambers.
I agree with that 100%. Another one. Nedra Sequence Morris, 50 years old. She was killed on May 14th in Opa-locka, Florida. She was shot at an unknown location. Then she was dumped at an intersection. I have to pause for a minute because that is just disgusting. That's so anti-human. She was very feisty, opinionated, and strong. Police have not caught the killer, but the killer was driving a 2017 Jaguar F-Pace. I don't know the color. They didn't provide like a really detailed description, but I encourage the audience, if anybody knows anything about this, please speak up. Nedra deserves
Please help
justice.
her find justice.
So like Lucifer had said earlier on, that there's still this mentality of snitches get stitches.
Yep.
And that has to change. We need to also look at, if we're going to fund police, they need to be protecting the people that speak out.
Yes. Because right now, like, nobody really trusts them anymore.
Why would we?
Exactly.
Why in the actual fuck would I actually trust the police? After all the shit I've been through, fuck no.
Right. So then when you look at other people who may know something, that may be sex workers or trans people or minorities, marginalized communities that may have known something, they aren't going to speak up.
Well, I would just still encourage it anyway. Even if you're don't want to speak up, just imagine if this was somebody you knew.
Oh, I encourage it wholeheartedly.
Yes. Wholeheartedly. Please do it. I can only imagine what her family's going through, though. Like, not knowing who did this to their child. And that's honestly what scares me as a parent. I am a parent of a trans child. If something violently were to happen to my child, and I did not know what happened to her, it would kill me mentally. I probably would stop talking for a while. Because it's just like, what the fuck? Why would you do that anyway? But anyways, Ray Musket, he was 26 years old. He was shot on May 8th in Oakland County, Michigan. He was killed by his girlfriend, a fellow trans woman, Ruby Taverner, who died by suicide. And cops suspect she also shot her brother. Ray worked at Meyer. He loved anime. He frequently attended at conventions. He was going to college for early childhood education. And again, he too was misgendered. I just got to say, though, like, when I saw that this was a trans woman that did this to him, I got shocked for a minute. But then again, I'm kind of not surprised.
But if we look at 1 in 4 people have mental health issues.
That is true.
That includes in marginalized communities. Being marginalized doesn't remove you from that statistic. The problem this is where it becomes fodder for, see, they're all mentally unwell. Instead of, no, that's everybody. We have mental health issues, random skills of not coping, all of these things. We could have drug addiction involved. And because, none of this really there's nothing investigated in depth to be able to go, okay, drug addiction was involved, or financial issues, things that would happen if a white straight woman was unalived or even died under suspicious circumstances. All of those things would be gone through with a fine-tooth comb to look for different motives. This to a police officer didn't care in the first place, but now it's all wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
So we have no information for even our own community to go, why would that happen?
Right. And for the record, we need to not kill each other, though. Nobody should be killing each other.
No. Right? We all need to fight together. And especially for this particular person, it really does hit a lot back to home for me, because I'm actually a daycare teacher. I am a trans man working at a daycare. And, like, I can see that, like, I never met him, but, like, I can just feel the passion that he has.
Yep.
And it's not, and I also deal with misgendering at work all the time. All the time. I mean, I could really care less if the kids do it, because kids will be kids. I let the kids do whatever they want to call me by, because they're 2.
Right.
But, like, I can feel the passion that he had for working with children and working to get his early childhood education degree. And there's no reason that other trans people should be killing other trans people. I get that, yes, there may be stuff involved, like, okay, this person was made on this or was doing this at the time and this happened. Like, I get that there are factors that can contribute, including with mental health, a lot, but that it doesn't matter. There's nothing that justifies at all.
Nothing justifies murder anyways, but
I was about to say that.
we can't step back and go, because you're trans, you would not get to a point where anyone else could get, especially since minorities and marginalized communities have the least amount of access to any kind of mental health help or coping mechanisms or strategies or biopsychosocial help. So you can't expect, no one can expect someone who is trans to go, I can't kill you though, because we're trans.
Right.
Because
I was about to just emphasize on that.
if they had the self-control to go, I can't kill you because we're trans, they would have the self-control to go, I shouldn't kill someone I love. I can walk away, I can do these things, I can access some sort of supports. But what if this was a highly toxic situation, but there was no, it's harder for a trans woman to leave a domestic violence relationship than even a straight white woman. So without the biopsychosocial programs, that's not necessarily somewhere where they can access. I mean, we don't have enough around the stories. This is also the problem. We don't have enough around the stories to go, what do we need to focus on to make sure that this doesn't happen, especially if it's, queer on queer crime? What is necessary in order to fix that? But I just, not that I'm a murderer, but I tell you, if I was trans and my mother was trans, I'd probably still want to knock her head off regardless, and there's bigger things also at play. Trans is not an entire identity. Queer is not an entire identity. We are multifaceted humans. And I think that gets forgotten within our own community, right? Like I've told you, I'm aggressively lesbian. It becomes a big part of our identity because we're activists. But at the end of the day, just being trans isn't enough to go, I don't have this issue, or I'm not homicidal, or, being homicidal doesn't really care about what gender you are.
That is true. And I say that when it comes to domestic violence too, it has no gender.
Yeah.
And I thank you so much for like pointing that out, because, people are already having challenges in accessing any type of care at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on top of that, even if they do have access to it, they're afraid to go.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid that they're going to get judged. They're going to get discriminated against. I mean,
Well,
I can tell you though, like being in my field of mental health, like there's been times I've almost gave up on being a therapist because I was told by other therapists and some even in our own communities that trans people do not belong in mental health other than sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
Who wants to fucking go to a therapist if they're promoting that type of vile garbage?
Yeah. And I'm a being that I'm also in the therapy field. I'm a huge advocate. I'm a pro therapy therapist. Like if you have nothing wrong with you, that's when you should go to therapy. When you're not in crisis, that's when you learn better. Don't wait till you're in a crisis. But that is not normalized in any community, any at all. I'm British. British people were taught therapy is for the weak, so we don't go. And again, it's not normalized. So even when you have access, it's not normalized. Again, I don't know what went on with this situation. We don't. But this is where I would love to be able to have access to that information so we can break it down. What would force someone, marginalized communities tend to have a little bit more wherewithal around communication and needing support. So I would say that something serious, like just from a practitioner perspective, something very serious was going on, either from a mental health perspective or a mental health crisis, or perhaps domestic violence, or again, a lot of any kind of thing like this. I just look at coping skills were not put in place as children. And when you look at the average normal, neurotypical, everything is good kid, when they don't have typical coping skills, they suck at adulthood. And they spend a lot of money either going through therapy, spending a lot of money on Brené Brown, or they into crime or drugs. So that's typical. If you take marginalized communities, the more marginalized they get, or the more boxes they can check off with zero coping skills, dumb things seem smart.
Yep. That is so true. Let me go ahead and go to the next one. Fern Feather, 29 years old, killed on April 12th in Morristown, Vermont. Stabbed because the killer used the trans panic defense. Basically, what happened is that Fern was with this male named Seth Brunel. And apparently they were seen in a park and they've been there for a while. And I guess what they told originally is that they were just trying to find a place where they could walk the animals. But this asswipe had the nerve to say, well, she was scaring me because she was coming on to me strong and went crazy. So I had no choice but to defend myself. And stabbed her with a 12-inch knife.
I can't tell you how much I hate this law for a multitude of reasons, but I will zip till it's my turn.
Well, we're almost done, so don't worry. So, Ariana Mitchell, this one is a killer for me. 17 years old, killed on April 2nd in Hampton, Virginia. And right before she got shot, they asked her if she was a boy or a girl. Media again misgendered her. 17. That's what kills me. They barely have had enough time to live. What the actual fuck?
Oh my God.
Mila Love Parker. She was 25 years old, died on April 1st in Chester, Pennsylvania. She was in a parked car when she was shot. The police are currently looking for her killer, so they have a name. Syed Nahid Dwight. He is presumed to be armed and dangerous. From what I read on the website, cops are encouraging people to not confront him, but to immediately call him. I don't have a description because they didn't put it on there. She loved the show Pose. She loved puppy memes. She liked shopping and fashion. Let's just be real. Puppy memes are cute. They always brighten up my day. So I like that.
Puppy memes are the best.
Yes. Pinata Keisha Webster, 24 years old, found dead in Jackson, Mississippi on March 26th. The killer has not been caught. And the mother, see, when I read about this story, that's kind of when I broke down. Because I was imagining something with my mother. Because I lost my brother in 2018. And, even though it was for a completely different reason, just not knowing. Or even having to bury your own child. No parent should have to bury their own child. This mother is still asking for justice. I cried. I just literally cried. It took me about an hour, but I cried. Because I empathize so much with her mother. This one, and Jess, I'm going to have you talk about this one after I read it. Katherine Katie Newhouse, 19 years old. She was a neurodivergent. She was an Illinois native. They were killed in Georgia by their father on March 19th. And like I was saying before the stream, of course, the father had to be a punk and kill himself shortly after. There were previous records of violence before. He had done physical violence to her. Katie was an advocate for trans rights. She loved to hike and sightsee. Now, I wanted to go ahead and bring your voice to the table on this one, Jess, because we were talking about this earlier before we actually went live.
Right. So as a neurodivergent person, and I have a severely neurodivergent eldest. My middle is mildly neurodivergent. So and as a single parent, it's so overwhelming. There's more and more things that parents can access around this age group. Still, there was not so much. This is not an excuse, by the way. Parents are overwhelmed. They have no coping skills. Things shift so quickly in parenting neurodivergent kids. It is exhausting, depending on the level of neurodivergence. Depends on the level of exhaustion as well. But there are no supports in place. So if you took somebody And there's an element of failure as a parent of a neurodivergent child, both socially and just internally, of that you failed. What did you do wrong? Which is getting better, but especially around, again, this woman's age, the parents would have been very much blamed. Vaccines were to blame for a long time. It was very much you did something. So feeling like a failure. So I can imagine if we took a man who already feels like a failure, maybe he has little man syndrome, whatever, he's already exhausted around being a parent of a neurodivergent kid. Trust me, we are not kind to our parents. Like we don't mean to not be that, but it's 38,000 questions in a millisecond, and no sleeping patterns, and weird texture stuff. Everything is a hard day for a lot of parents without those supports in place, those biopsychosocial supports of respite, of classes, of learning and understanding, and just supports for parents where they're not stuck at home. It's not easy to get a babysitter for a neurodivergent kid. So there's not a lot of breaks. If you take a man who is possibly already feeling like an absolute failure, and then their kid is trans on top of that, again with no coping skills, the biopsychosocial and the social ramifications of that, the whole toxic masculinity, you have a ticking time bomb of what's going to happen. Of I don't, or even on the other element of that, I don't want you to have this really hard life. Now you're neurodivergent and you're trans or queer. And keep in mind that for many, many decades, neurodivergence was equated with mental retardation, and that was it. I mean, we didn't have words cognitive delays. You were either one or the other. You were either good, not good. And parents still aren't all the way fully out of that. Again, not an excuse, but we don't put the supports in place to make sure this doesn't happen for the neurodivergent community. Neurodivergent and queer, it's a whole other ball game of parents not having coping skills. You are told you're going to have this beautiful little baby, and it comes out and it smiles and everything's good. And then they turn into people. And parents are not prepared for their children becoming people. And parents of neurodivergent kids really expect us to not have voices or intelligence, again, because it was always associated with not being cognitively aware. So if you're smart and loud and articulate, nobody knows what to do with that. And in the neurodivergent community, it was if you could speak, you were good, thanks to Hans Asperger's. If you could speak, you were good. So supports were diminished for neurodivergent kids that could talk. Now, just because your kid can talk doesn't mean that you don't need support as a parent, right? So, and again, without all of the facts, because he's obviously taken his own life, but I guarantee you the people around him didn't go, hey, he was looking for supports for this. Not understanding trans, what does that look like? What if it, the whole martyr syndrome that happens? I mean, the plethora of issues and profiles that we have around people who kill. Were you trying to save them from a life of horrendousness? Who knows? But this brings to light that neurodivergence is very prevalent in the DID community and very prevalent in the trans community, which one can become fodder that all people who are trans are neurodivergent or suffer from mental health issues. Or that if you have a neurodivergent kid, they're more likely to be confused by what they hear and be groomed by this type of behavior. Not a lot of neurodivergent people who are articulate and well-spoken or have a lot of degrees speak out on this topic, mostly because activism isn't necessarily their deal. There's too many emotions around this, right? So it doesn't get spoken about at all. Or how parents of and we don't want to say parents that have neurodivergent kids might kill their kids. I mean, all parents can snap, all people can snap. And I think that's where we have to get to of going, okay, stop with the nonsense. All parents can snap. All people can snap. And they snap because they don't have supports. And if they had supports, then we would just be able to look at, sociopaths, psychopaths, and people who just want to kill for the hell of killing.
Right.
Right? Again, not an excuse. I don't believe there's any excuse to kill somebody unless your life is in danger. And clearly his life was not in danger. But it's not spoken about enough. And neurodivergent kids grow up with a lot of violence. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that, especially as older neurodivergents, until it became sort of more mainstream and that, it wasn't just verbal, nonverbal. There was a lot of abuse because there wasn't a lot of ability to communicate. And kids like me, my mom used to call me a gobshite. And a gobshite in England is one that won't shut up and will always question you. So you got hit for being a gobshite. The only reason my mom stopped hitting me in the face was because I was getting cauliflower ear. And the pediatrician told her to hit me somewhere else, not hit me. But violent behavior was considered normal and on parenting kids or kids that were difficult or neurodivergent kids. So I can almost guarantee you that this relationship was volatile long before it was violent.
Yeah, that's the sad truth. And you're 100% correct. I wanted to go ahead and go with the next person. Tatiana Labelle, 33 years old, died in Chicago, Illinois. Actually, on my birthday, March 18th. This is disgusting right here. She was found in a trash can. A trash can. And the cause of death was that she was beaten to death. Media reports dead named her. The killer has not been caught. But one thing that stuck out, she is a fan of Mariah Carey and Patti LaBelle. Okay, I love Patti LaBelle. Okay, so
She kind of looks like Patti LaBelle, though.
Yeah, she's so beautiful. Like all these lives that we've seen so far, they are beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And I want to encourage and actually empower all my trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming siblings. You are all beautiful. It's not about looks. Your heart is beautiful. Express that. Because right now, empathy is missing in this country, in this world, actually. Show that beauty. Be proud of your beauty. Paloma Vasquez. She was 29 years old. She was shot on February 22nd in Houston, Texas. She was found by her boyfriend, and the killer has not been caught. And she had just moved there. And she was really excited about living her new life as her authentic self. That's what kills me. She's not the only one that's gone through this. Some of these trans women are actually, they were early in their transition and their lives were taken away too soon.
And Paloma was actually, she had escaped from trans violence. And that's why she was just moving into her new apartment.
Yep.
She was sort of given supports to get out of trans violence, to be in a place that was more conducive and open. And that was her reward for taking those steps to get out of trans violence and do something different, to the land of the free, right?
Mm-hmm. But right now, Texas is not a safe haven for trans people at all.
They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that when you're immigrating to somewhere, though.
Yeah, they don't. Like, that's kind of where I kind of empathize with people who are wanting to come in this country. Because it really isn't, like, safe. They don't tell you, like, oh, like, Texas is, they probably say, like, well, Texas is probably a really good state for you. You're going to be happy here. No. Right now, Texas is very dangerous for trans people because they got people like CPS taking kids away from their parents, trans kids away from their parents, because they're allowing them to transition. They're trying to justify it and say that it's child abuse. First of all, that's garbage. Not allowing your kid to transition or even live as their authentic selves, that is abuse. Okay? Let's just make that clear. I will actually talk a little bit about gender affirming care a little bit later, but let me go ahead and next slide. And I just want to apologize for my speech. Talking about this topic, it's very hard for me. So, but I'm doing my best because we need to talk about these lives.
You're doing amazing.
Well, thank you.
You're doing awesome, Noah.
Well, thank you. The next one is Matthew Angelo Spempanito. I don't know if I pronounced that right, and if I didn't, I'm sorry. 21 years old. He was a barista at Starbucks in Newcastle, Delaware. He was described as a selfless person. He was killed in a hit and run on February 9th, and they have not caught the driver. And now, obviously, as you see, he was a parent. That little girl does not have her dad. It makes me want to just cry. If we need to take a moment, please let me know. But like that, just seeing that smile.
That just kills me.
I could see the joy and that selflessness in that picture.
Yeah.
I hope they do catch the person that actually did this. But I really have no faith in the justice system, to be honest. Naomi Skinner, 25 years old, shot to death in Michigan. Again, on February 2nd, or February 12th, by her boyfriend, who has been charged. The wound was found on her neck. So he got her in the neck. She was found in the hallway. He dragged her in the hallway, and he fled the scene. They had to do a GoFundMe for her funeral. This is real. Okay, this is a thing that, I'm going to pause for a minute. This is the thing that pisses me off about TERFs, though. Yes, women do experience that, but that is trans women included, too. I don't know where they get this delusion that trans women don't experience fucking shit like this. I really don't.
I don't think TERFs care.
Because they don't care. That's something I think
they never have.
Yeah, I think we could all universally agree on that one, to be honest. Cypress Ramos, 21 years old, died on February 13th in Lubbock, Texas. She was struck in the head with a hard object. She participated in drag, and I put this perfectly. The killer's garbage defense. So the killer's name is Alan Montemeyer, stated, he said he had come out of a restroom and saw that she had started a fire. He said she then attempted to hit him with a baseball bat in self-defense. However, her friend kind of debunked that and said that she's not even that strong to hit a person with a crowbar or a 4x4 or whatever it was that hit him when he was out of the restroom. She had said that there's just no way. And she even accused him of starting the fire. He tried my friend literally.
Who has a baseball bat or 2x4 or anything outside of a restroom other than to hit someone with it?
Exactly.
Like you're just what I do normally is I go stand outside of restrooms just randomly with a baseball bat because that seems normal.
This is, by the way, my friend Brandy, she's neurodivergent too, and 3 of her kids are as well. Love you, Brandy. I just had to say that to you. My heart goes to you. You're amazing. And so are your kids. So, Duval Princess, 24 years old, killed in Jacksonville, Florida on January 2nd. January 2nd of this year. She was in her car at a shopping center. Police also misgendered her. She was a hairstylist and in the early stages of transition. So this is a statement that I pulled from an article. As Princess pulls her car up, the person goes to the driver's side, then to the passenger side, then back to the driver's side. They finally go back to the passenger side and get in Princess's car. The TV station WJax, which also misgenders and dead names her, reports that a flash is seen in the footage and the person leaves the vehicle and flees. And the last one, Amarele, 19 years old, killed in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania on New Year's Day. New Year's Day! She was a beloved coach for the Lady Diamonds. She made headlines in 2017 after she was assaulted by Woodland Hills High School's resource officer. She was thrown against the wall and her teeth were knocked out. As for her death, she was found at 6 a.m. on the street. Killer still at large, and they had to crowdfund for her funeral. Seeing all these trans lives, these were all beautiful human beings. This is why I am encouraging everyone to please show up on October 1st.
Yeah.
Whatever state that you're in, or even another country, wherever you are, stand up and rise. The time to use our voice is fucking now. We have been told to shut the fuck up for years. We are not going to do that anymore. We are not going
Dude, someone
to...
can tell me to shut the fuck up and I'll look at them and be like, why? So you can tell me to shut the fuck up some more and tell me, like, shut my mouth? No, I'm going to be loud and fucking proud.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry. I had to lighten up the room because after that, it was just really hard to take all of that and we need to lighten up a little bit.
Well, of course. That's why I'm going to say some positive encouragement for you all. I know as a whole, as a society, that we basically have been told to not use our voice. We basically been feared. Like, we've been living in fear of using our voice. I want to tell you, though, using your voice is the most powerful tool we have as human beings. You combine that with direct action, you are unstoppable.
Yeah.
And know that you're not alone. There are many of us that are out there. Some are going through the same things. The important thing is we need to not focus on petty bullshit, and we need to focus on these issues. If you want to have petty conversations, that's fine. But let's just put that back for another time right now.
Yeah.
Because right now, more trans lives are going. Kids are experiencing this big time. And I also want to put this disclaimer out here. These are like 31 trans lives this year. And I'm going to guarantee you there are probably more. Guaranteed. And the thing that actually me and Sukaru have talked about too, they don't talk about the ones that have actually killed themselves.
No, they don't. I've never seen anything.
Like, they'll sit there and say, well, this is probably the percentage rate that people are going to consider suicide, but where are the ones that actually did? Because they need a voice too. They definitely need a voice. Because the people that are experiencing suicide ideations, what they're experiencing, like, I can even just share that. You're feeling alone. You're feeling trapped. Especially if you're not in a safe and affirming space. Please be there for each other. Don't waste time on really stupid shit. Like, who cares? The universal agreement should be human life is human life. It doesn't fucking matter. And I want to ask a question to everybody. What the fuck is it going to take for all of you to be pissed off enough to just go out in the street? What is it going to take? What the hell is it going to take? Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill, yes, that was a start for me. But I've been wanting to be out in the street for a long fucking time. And 2021, just actually as a reminder, was the deadliest year for transgender people. 56 people lost their fucking life.
375 worldwide that we know of.
Yes. This is not fucking okay, people. We need to unite. And we need to stand strong. Oh, hold up. Here we go. 375 trans people were murdered in 2021.
2 of them Canadian.
I'm just giving myself a little bit of moment of silence here. If anybody wants to talk, I don't want to overtalk anybody. So if anybody wants to share anything, please do.
So you had asked me about sort of the stats in Canada, and
Yep.
in Canada in 2016, trans people were considered protected people. Prior to that, it was just DSM-5. So when I'm looking up the stats, we're not seeing real stats because they're considered protected people and they're considered with their gender. So we're not actually seeing transgender person murdered, which has its benefits. Yes, they're being the gender that they identify as, but it's just lumped into killings. And Canada in general has a lower rate of unaliving than you guys do. But what the stats that I could pull up is that in Canada, and we're talking trans people are protected people, we have biopsychosocial resources, that transgender Canadians were more likely to have experienced severe violence since the age of 15. They're also more likely to experience inappropriate behaviors in public, online, and at work than any cisgender Canadian. On July 22nd, Statistics Canada published police reported nationwide crime statistics for 2018. The report includes a table on hate crime that includes sexual orientation. Although the gender identity and expression category was only introduced this year. So the reason why I cannot give you stats is because there was no classification around gender affiliation, identity, or even sexuality. What was classified as if someone was a gay man. Lesbians tended to get a mother passed away or a sister or a daughter. And then when it came to trans people, it just wasn't reported because they didn't have it as a category for reporting on death or murder. So now, starting now, is when we will see StatsCan reporting transgender and agender crimes. Currently, it gets put into other.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Hey, Noah. So, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I was going to point out Brandy's comment saying that they may have to sit in the corner with a sign because of asthma, which I completely understand to a T. Severe asthma, I feel, but they will be there. Thank you so much, Brandy. I don't know you, but you are just an amazing person within itself because you are coming out and you are gonna, even if you have to sit there and hold a sign, I don't, guess what? We're all here to use our voices and we better shout loud and fucking proud. I'm going to be there with a bullhorn. I will fight for our rights.
And see, that's a thing I want to emphasize. People that are kind of new to organizing. I mean, I'm kind of new to organizing. It doesn't have to be big. It could be just simply just sitting on a corner with a sign. Something.
Yeah.
God,
I will be in
it
hospital.
Could be anything.
I will be in hospital on October 1st, but I will have a very large piece of cardboard just to irritate my staff members. Otherwise, I would be organizing something here in Alberta, but I'm just not able. But I do pass this information on. And listen, Brandy, I go to activism, I go to marches, and I sit in my walker with my wife running to get different kinds of medications so that I don't, just keel over out of the walker. Your voice and your presence, sometimes it's just about being a body. And,
right.
If you're out there by yourself and one other person is sitting in the corner with a sign having an asthma attack, yeah, because that one person isn't out there by themselves. So every single person matters at any protest, any march, any sit-in. It's so important. And, as disabled queer people, it's super important.
See, I have plans underway for here, looking like at least 53 people will be involved.
Yes, my lover.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. Because right now we are currently getting a lot of inquiries right now. I know we're looking to organize in Oregon, Illinois, Iowa. We may have Ohio. We actually may have Austin, Texas. And honestly, that made my fucking heart happy when I heard that we may have Austin or potentially Houston as well as Florida. Because if people aren't familiar with what's going on in Florida and Texas, those are the most garbage ass states right now.
Yeah.
They're getting shit.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me, people should be pissed off and in the streets about this.
Has anyone reached out to that kid who organized all of the Pride walkouts on TikTok?
I want to actually.
Also,
Because I think that would be a good idea.
I would need to deep dive to remind myself of their name, but that kid organized some shit.
Oh yeah, and I saw that. I'm like, oh, like that's why I think I actually duetted that actually because I saw the video and I'm like, yes, more of this.
I would highly suggest we reach out to that kid and be like, that kid's got to know some people that are willing. Those kids that all walked out were willing to give up their education for rights,
Exactly.
And we need the youth supporting too. We need the youth representation of this whole situation, which a lot of people who are very anti-LGBTQ 2+ IA everything, they really hope that when us 80s queers die, that it's over. That if they just hang on a little minute, it'll be done because there'll be no more groomers, so we need to show that, you can get rid of all of us oldies, but us oldies had no exposure to anything queer. We had no representation. We had no books. We had no nothing. And we were so queer. So queer.
I actually find that argument to be very hilarious, though, about them saying that we're trying to indoctrinate kids. Like, I kind of almost find it hilarious because it's like, aren't you guys doing that too to some degree?
Not even
like
some.
Trying to force
I find that more hilarious because they're the ones doing it. Like, I'm sorry, I gotta put that out there.
Deflection and projection. Deflect and project. If you're in a relationship and every time you come home, from a pap smear, your partner is like, you were cheating on me. You did these things. We all know that we're like, well, those who are that defensive are usually the ones doing the crime. So if we look at that piece, that's why deflection and projection. Yes.
Millennials and Gen Z, yes, let's get them all out there. Get everybody, Gen X and even boomers. Let's get everybody out there because I have been saying this too for a while. We are experiencing a generational divide right now.
Yeah.
We need to get everybody together. We need people to kind of just put their ignorance to the side.
Yeah.
Realize that people are dying. And, and I mean, even if it's just not by violence, it could be just having lack of health care.
Yeah. Well, like I have said, a lot of people who are against us don't care how we're dead, as long as we're dead. So when we say stats like 700,000 queer youth, well, just queer people every year attempt suicide. They don't care because, well, that takes out all the effort that they need to do. They don't care how we die as long as we die. So making sure that, it's even part of my activism is talking to people who just don't know. They're not ignorant. They're not pieces of shit. They're not out there willfully wanting us dead. They just don't know that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these different tiers from education to I'm not opposed to knocking someone out.
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll be like, I'm disabled. It was a twitch.
I know we're going to be coming close to the end of the episode, but I want to gather everybody's closing thoughts. So whoever wants to go first, I actually am going to volunteer to go last. So if anybody wants to go first on that, I welcome the panel.
Go ahead, Justin.
Honestly, I have a lot of thoughts and emotions that ring around this subject that we had discussed today. It was very, very hard for me to open up and talk about this, especially experiences as a youth myself, and a lot of young people that are so close to my age. It breaks my heart. If anyone knows anything, speak up. Even if it's on like a Facebook post, like speak up. And please, 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 I urge you guys, if you guys can, come and use your voice and come march with us on October 1st. Please.
Well said on that one. What about you? What about you, Jess?
I want to remind people that you can report things anonymously. And when you think it's not anonymous, it can be very, very anonymous. And if you don't know how to do something anonymous, find a Gen Z and have them do it for you.
Yes.
You can utilize other people to go, I need to do this. We are not a television show where just speaking out means you're in witness protection for the next 25 years. You can speak out. You can share things. If you can't be somewhere, share it where other people know things are happening. But above all, recognize that trans people, queer kids, marginalized communities are in dire need of everyone recognizing that we are fucking people. That we are not a blurb that you read in the paper. We are people, and hundreds of thousands of us are lost all the time, whether to homelessness or to murder or anything in between. And here's where we need the people who aren't queer too. I don't care what your beliefs are, because I don't know anyone who inherently does not support human beings. So beyond all else, if you don't understand something or you don't get it, I don't care. I don't care that you don't get it. You care about humans. And at the very least, recognize that your child, grandchild, niece, nephew, someone you know is trans, whether you know it or not. And you owe it to the children coming up to realize that you are a person who stands for people, not for money, not for capitalism, not for anything. That you want at the end of the day to be able to look at your fellow human and go, fuck, I love you. I don't care what you don't get, because what you do get is that life is important. And even to all of my hyper religious, I was going to say friends, but the people out there, if you recognize the sanctity of life, then you understand the sanctity of life. Follow through. It's not just from the first breath or when the sperm hits the ovum. It is until you naturally leave this fucking realm. And we all are the keepers of sacred spaces, and to make sure that we all have the ability to live and explore and grow safely.
Amen. A fucking man to that.
Amen. Oh my goodness. Amen.
I have my dog in here, so he may pop in the camera. So, hey, he's a cleanse. So, my final thoughts. I just want to say life is short. Whether if you're trans, straight, whatever, please tell somebody you love them, because you never know when that time is going to come. I actually had a best friend of mine. her brother actually suicided. And, you know, he felt like he wasn't loved. For those who are experiencing that idea that their lives don't matter, tell them that they matter. Stand in solidarity. With October 1st, I want everyone to show up. Not just our LGBTQIA plus siblings. I want allies.
Yeah.
Because right now what's going on in this country, it's real. I mean, we got batshit crazy ass MAGA people that are basically trying to kill us off. Now is not the time to dick around. The time to use our voice is now. This is why this network is here. Education is important. Because if you think about it again, what creates a stigma? A fuck up and lack of education. We need to be out there educating. With these rallies, you could be marching. You can even set up booths just to simply educate. Hold a sign. You're completely independent with it. As long as we're spreading awareness about what's going on. And as a piece of advice for people who are organizing in their state, look up any anti-LGBTQIA plus or anti-trans legislation. Pressure your politicians. If you are in the states with I think the last time I checked, it was like 24 co-sponsors of Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill. If you live in those states, pressure those people. Even if you have to get a tent, sleep outside their house until they come out and you pressure them. Do it. Because people in power these days, they have gotten too fucking comfortable. We need to shake up the room. We need to call out this performative bullshit that they're doing. And realize this is a big deal. We should not have to accept crumbs. We need the whole pie. Please use your voice. And if you ever need to talk to anyone, know that there's a community around you. Because again, yes, Jess is a good ally. It's somebody that I look for in an authentic ally. Somebody that's willing to be culturally humbled. And I'm going to actually advocate for this. Do not engage in Karen entitlement syndrome, please. Okay? I'm really sick of the Karens, and I'm sick and tired of the attitude that follows it. Okay? Humble yourselves. Don't make it about yourselves. This movement is not about us. This is about the many lives that have been lost and the many more that could potentially lose their lives. Let's stop it. Talk about the issues. Spread awareness. Know that even though I may not know most of you personally, I love you all. And that is what's important, okay? And I just want to thank everybody who's tuned into the stream tonight. And first of all, I want to say, please like, share, and subscribe. We are also on Anchor, Spotify, Amazon, Google, and Apple. And if anybody wants any information about the protests, please visit our webpage, transradicalactivistnetwork.org. There is a contact form. In fact, actually, if you want, I will actually go ahead and share the screen with you both so that way I can actually pull it up so I can guide you all where you need to go. So give me just a second. I should have had this pulled up in the first place, but I didn't even think about it. But we're here. So when you go to our webpage, we are going to be adding a mailing list here soon. But click on the October 1st, 2022 National Day of Action to End Violence and Genocide on Transgender People. Here, it will actually give you a message here, why we are protesting. But scrolling down, when you fill out this contact form on this page, it'll get redirected to Sukaru Fours, my co-founder, who is the lead person running this event. If anybody needs a copy of the flyer, you can feel free to click on it and download it. just please show up. We need you more than ever. And I just want to say, yes, protect queer kids. And I kind of feel bad because I wanted to wear my Trans Lives Matter shirt, but I got this shirt that says trans dudes are hotter. So, and that's actually true. So
I'll allow it. I agree. I came up with a term for lesbians who think trans men are super hot because I'm not pan. So I came up with a term. Translators.
Hey, I have to hop off.
Well, we're getting ready to end, Justin. So, but anyways, I just want to say tune in next Wednesday. Hopefully, we're going to be talking about the bisexual community. So please check it out, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.